I'm free.
Thank the good Lord. We've had an up and down week over there in the Appalachias.
Yeah.
It's been wild, bro.
Yeah.
It was wild.
Where to even begin on this one?
Ah, man. Well, I want to hear, though, you didn't really tell me in detail what the jail stint was like. And I know it was horrific from the small details I've heard you talk to me about already. But I'd like you to tell the fans kind of,
Sure.
why don't we start with why you were arrested?
Sure.
And then what the jail was like. And
Sure.
just, like a serious talk about what happened.
Spoiler alert. I was assaulted.
Mm-hmm. In jail.
Yeah.
Sexually. He was... It's unfortunately how quickly he was actually assaulted sexually in jail. But, it's something that's going to make him, I don't know, more of a Renaissance man.
Yeah.
It's something else you have, now not only have you been in fights, you've been a bouncer at bars, you have a crazy YouTube channel, but you were sexually assaulted in jail by a meth head.
I will wear it proudly.
Yes.
I will wear it proudly.
As you should.
Let's back up a little bit and just talk about the idea for this trip.
Sure.
I saw that a buddy of mine on YouTube, Peter Santinello, did a series in Appalachia, and him and I talk on the phone sometimes and business strategies, and he did this Appalachia series, and it in mind-bending levels of views. 16 million on one of them, 5-6 million on the rest of the series. And I saw that, and I watched the videos and loved them and was really interested in the region. And I texted him and asked him, hey, would you mind me going out and doing my own take on Appalachia? I promise it'll be very different. And he was super cool about it. I was like, yeah, man, go for it. So the idea was that we were going to do a 4-parter covering Appalachian economy, culture, recreation, and religion. It was going to come out over the course of 2 weeks, these 4-piece videos, or these 4 videos. And I was hyped. I had a bunch of material written for them, a bunch of places to be. And on our very first bit after touching down in Appalachia,
The first bit.
the first morning, the first piece of content we have to shoot for the first video, which was going to be the culture one, we go to a dental clinic. The reason I wanted to go to a dental clinic is because Mountain Dew mouth was a phenomenon that I was curious about. Mountain Dew mouth in Appalachia is a thing that happens when people there drink too much soda. In some cases, they were even videographed, recorded. Sorry, I'm still shaking up from my stint in jail this weekend.
Yeah.
Shake the cobwebs up. In some cases, locals have even put Mountain Dew into baby bottles and fed them to their babies on camera. If that's happening on camera and in fucking news stories, it probably happens all the time off camera.
Fez, no doubt, was fed some soda as a child. Probably Coca-Cola, very famous of the Latinos.
Most likely, yes. I cannot remember not once not having it.
Yeah. As far back as he remembers.
I cannot remember not once not having
the soda. I love the soda.
So we wanted to, the idea for this bit was it was going to center on how big food companies, big soda, take advantage of that region. Because that region, that is the most downtrodden, abused, exploited group of white people probably in the world.
Yeah, it's crazy that Joe Rogan literally just spoke to the guy that did that song, that song that's blowing up. And I think that guy might be from the Appalachia region.
Yeah,
but he's
Richmond, north of Richmond.
Yeah, this area of the United States needs some attention.
Sure.
So I'm glad that you're doing your piece on it. Although our experience there was pretty wild. So
Yes.
Continue.
The mining business has exploited people there since forever. Not forever, since the late 1800s, early 1900s. Up until today, I still see them as getting exploited. It's a job with a high mortality rate. Let's say that.
Yeah.
Then the OxyContin. That was the first place they started prescribing the shit out of OxyContin and getting these coal miners and working class people hooked on a product that is lethal.
Right.
And then big food too. We were in a town in Welch, West Virginia. We asked somebody locally if there was a good coffee shop, and they said McDonald's.
The best place to, guys, the best place to eat in town was McDonald's.
Yes. We tried a restaurant on Saturday night,
We
didn't we?
tried a restaurant, and it was... I had a turkey sandwich with like the meat seemed like something that you'd find at 7-Eleven. You know
Yes.
what I mean? It was like a 7-Eleven sandwich they gave me.
I think it was probably worse, maybe even.
Yeah.
It was probably worse than a 7-Eleven. The lettuce looked like it might have had paper or cardboard in it.
Yeah.
Nico's burger looked like it was out of one of those like My First Easy Bake Oven toys. It looked rubber.
We asked a guy in town, a local, where we should eat, and this was his reaction. He looked down, he looked me in the eyes, and he goes, I don't know. He lived in the town. Yeah.
Well, fish, when I'm hungry, I just go out in the back and catch me a squirrel.
Dude, we don't want to be assholes, but boy, these people, they need a lot of help, man.
They
need
do.
a lot of help.
Yeah, and that was way deep in West Virginia. There
Right.
were better places that we went to, but that in Welch, West Virginia, it was so bad.
It was insane.
We go to the dental clinic, and I mean, it's public record now. I don't want to talk too much about some elements of the case,
Right.
but yeah, we wanted to, in order to skewer the big soda companies that exploit the region, we were pretending and we said we were not real dental hygienists. We said we were amateur dental hygienists, but the premise was that underneath the dental hygienist masquerade, we were actually Mountain Dew salespeople, and we were going to investigate people's teeth and then slip them a dew.
Right.
Should I pull up the article? Like, Leo, do you want to link it to me?
Sure.
Yeah.
It'll just distract us right now. Do it
Yeah,
after
let's
the fact.
do it after, yeah.
And we do our bit. It was very, very respectful as far as we go.
We wanted to be respectful right off the rip because we didn't really know what the locals were going to do.
Yeah.
We were getting terrible looks everywhere we went.
Yeah.
Kind of like, I don't know, like I feel like maybe, like I felt discriminated, you could say.
Discriminated against.
Discriminated against. I felt like I felt like I was a minority in that town. I didn't look like anyone in town.
Mm-hmm.
Danny made a funny comment about him being like the Brad Pitt of the Appalachias. So
Yeah.
you could have been born in that area and maybe been like the best looking guy. You were the best looking guy in town by far.
Yeah, I looked like the guy who realizes he's better looking than the rest of the Appalachian guys, moves to Hollywood,
Right.
but then doesn't make it in Hollywood because he's not good looking enough.
No, he might get a gig at Universal Studios,
Sure.
in a furry costume or something, and
Yeah.
then tell everybody back home, I'm working at Universal Studios.
I'm
You know
working
how
at
it is.
Universe. I work in front of the Hogwarts.
Yeah.
I talk in an English accent and I direct people onto the train. It's going great.
Hell yeah.
We do the bit, and it's very lightweight. We're respectful. We're joking around. A lot of the ladies are laughing, having a good time with us. But then some people find it a little less funny, and they end up calling the cops.
Right.
Cops get called on us a lot. It's not a big deal. We almost never are actually breaking real laws.
Right.
So we usually don't panic when we hear that the cops are called or when cops show up.
We have an entire system already like down. Like I don't say anything. I'm usually in the back. Nico's driving and Danny does the talking. He puts on his super respectful tone. He says, sir, we show our hands, and then, they let us go.
Yeah.
That's usually how it goes.
Usually how it goes. And as we're driving away from the clinic, we see the lights in our rearview mirror, which is a little bit of a bummer because we had a lot to film that day. I was hoping we could burn up to Eastern Kentucky and get a busy up there, but we get pulled over. Again, we don't think it's a big deal. We're just hanging out, talking to the cops, basically telling them what happens. Well, one of the employees at the dental clinic zooms in front of the car, our rental car, to cut us off so we can't escape.
In a big white truck, like a big F-150 or something.
And we weren't, as if we were going to flee from the cops, which of course we weren't.
Yeah.
But more of them start coming over, and it becomes pretty clear that they're not thrilled about what just happened. That's understatement. They were very, very angry.
Right.
Because they just, I guess, and I understand it, they're just not used to this sort of assholery. If this was a dental clinic in Santa Monica, you have to expect half a dozen TikTok assholes are going to come make content out of it.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Guys, you look like Austin.
Yeah.
You have to expect there's going to be some social media douchebag who crashes it. Or some
100%.
ditzy OnlyFans girl who wants to poke her big nose in thinking it's going to be like, I want to have a cause. Remember during BLM, there was a fucking clip that went viral of a girl popping out of her car taking a drill from a Mexican guy and pretending to drill plywood over a burned out jewelry store.
I remember that.
Her boyfriend took a picture of it, then she gave the drill back to the Mexican guy and got back in the Mercedes.
Right. I remember that.
See, they aren't used to that sort of behavior, though, out in Appalachia, however you say it. And so, they were pretty upset. And the cops took us into the station, and I erred on the side of being pretty honest. My dad always told me that if you get in trouble for a serious crime, if you were driving drunk, if you got into a fight and somebody got seriously injured, shut your mouth. Mm-hmm. They will use whatever you're saying against you. Let a lawyer the next day at 9 a.m. with a cup of coffee in him decide how he's going to represent the facts. Don't make that decision there on the scene when you're fucking emotional and perhaps drunk. But with us, we figure that everything we do is it's such a slap on the wrist kind of offense that if I'm just honest with the cops and treat them like humans, basically every time in the past they've let us go. So I tell the officer, and apparently there wasn't much he could do about it. The officer was very nice. Impersonating a medical professional, even though we said we were amateurs, is still a felony in the state of Tennessee.
Yes.
So next thing I know, I have cuffs slapped on me. I am led out of the building by the SUV that Leo and Nico are waiting in. They probably thought I was going to come out and go, "Hey, boys, yeah, fire up the car. We're going to Kentucky."
Right.
But instead, I come out cuffed, 2 police escorting me into their SUV. Mm-hmm. And from that point on, they came over to you and said he might do 3 to 5 years in jail.
Right.
Whoa.
They told us that the felony carries a 3 to 5 year jail sentence, and I'm like freaking the fuck out.
Yeah.
And you had your phone still somehow with your handcuffs on. You texted me like a final message from the car.
I was texting in the car because that was my last chance, and I didn't realize how much my last chance it was going to be. I still thought this whole thing was a slap on the wrist, and I was going to get into the jail, and that they were just going to be like, "Yep, we just had to process you. It's a technicality. You're free to go."
Right.
So I'm texting, but not as aggressively as I should be texting. Mm-hmm. I should have been texting my dad. I should have been texting you guys. I should have been looking up local lawyers, but I wasn't. I mean, what was my final text to you?
Final text, I can bring it up if you want, but it was something like, "Hey boys, I'm going to the station. Follow." I think you said like follow, come follow us, or get in and make sure. Man, I might as well bring it up because it's pretty.
No, it's not that important. So I walk into the jail with one of the officers, and we're joking around. It's not a big deal. When they're booking me, I'm joking around with a lot of the people in there, too. I'm helping the lady who's doing my fingerprints. I'm helping her with it. We're joking about how inefficient this fucking 1990s computer is.
Right.
It seems so light. I think they're just going to let me hop on a phone, call a local lawyer, swipe a credit card to pay the bond. But at some point, they're like, "All right, strip naked and put on these oranges." And I was like, "Okay."
Jesus.
I'll put on the orange. And then they're like, "Give us your phone and give us all your possessions." I take all that. I'm like, "Okay." And then they're like, "Oh yeah, get in that cell." So I get into a cell. It's right by the counter, the front counter where they book everybody. And it's just me in there. And so I still kind of think like, "Hey, can I make a phone call in a second?" I get out and I make a phone call. I only have 3 minutes to do it. And every minute it says, "You have 2 minutes remaining." So that ratchets up your heart rate. I call my dad. I tell him what's going on. He's at work and he's fucking furious. He's like, "Jesus, Danny, I'm in court right now. What's going on?" But I tell him, this is what I tell him to do. Because I said, "I understand if you don't want to deal with it. Please," because I don't have Leo or Nico's number memorized. "Please tell my sister to direct message Leo," which hopefully she hadn't been doing before this.
No, she hasn't.
Because I will smack you around.
She was not.
Okay.
But, yeah.
And I said, have her DM Leo and tell him that if he could find a local attorney or a bail bondsman to spring me, that would be great. Mm-hmm. Right after I make that call, I asked the lady at the front desk, "What is my bond, by the way?" She says, she pulls it up on the computer. "You have no bond. They haven't assigned you one." And I go, "What does that mean?" And she's like, "It means you're going to be here until Monday when they arraign you."
This was Thursday. Oh, my God. Thursday. That's 4 days in jail?
Yeah.